The state of the Naira has been a major concern for some years now as we've witnessed a drop in the value of the currency in the market. Last week, while speaking at the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, NESG 2024 Macroeconomic Outlook Report in Lagos, the governor of the central bank, Mr. Lai Omotola, said the Naira was currently undervalued and that the coordination between the fiscal and monetary authorities would produce a more balanced and stable exchange rate. The CBN Governor stated that the bank's collaborative efforts with the Ministry of Finance had ensured that all crude oil sales by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited were channeled through the central bank in an attempt to improve and solidify the inflow of foreign exchange into the economy. Joining us on the morning show today to discuss the current state of the Naira, which is currently valued at over 1,400 to a dollar in the parallel market, is Lai Omotola, the Chief Executive Officer of Confederated Facilitators Limited, CFL Group. Good morning and welcome to the morning show.
Thank you for having me here.
Well, Mr. Omotola, do you agree with the CBN Governor that the Naira is undervalued? And if it is undervalued, how? Why? And what should be the real value of the Naira?
Well, I think I said this last year when I was on the program, that what we have is not the true value of the Naira. And it's taken this long for the CBN Governor to come out to say, this is not the true value of the Naira. And for your question, is the CBN Governor that you actually need to ask that. That's number one, what is now the real value of the Naira? And also, what are the conditions? But if I'm to attempt to tell you, what used to happen in the past was when the CBN Governor was actually defending the Naira. But today, the Naira has been left to free markets, floats. So the CBN is no longer defending the Naira. And it will be very difficult for the CBN to say this is actually the true value of the Naira when he is not regulating it, he's no longer regulating it. In the past, the CBN will peg the Naira and say, this is what we think the Naira is supposed to be. And once it's pegged like that, what will happen is that it will bring in inflow into it to defend it. But now the CBN is no longer doing that. But what the CBN is trying to say is what I've been saying all in the past, that the people that are pushing the value of Naira to this point are speculators, not people actually engaging in legitimate means, economic means for this FX. But what we find is that people that are speculating for the sake of inflation, people that have their money in Naira, for the sake of the fact that Naira is no longer stable, they want to have their money in foreign currency. And then some people also want to buy to resell because of the gap of 400 Naira and 500 Naira. So FX deal is what is going on now. So but for you to now say the CBN to say how much is going to be when he's not the one regulating it, he doesn't have that capacity to do that again.
All right. Okay, so let me take you back to the screening process of the CBN Governor. Maybe just to share with you what he had said was one of his solutions to managing or defend or strengthening the Naira. One of the things they talked about was settling obligations, especially backlogs. Unfortunately, a few months down the line, he hasn't quite been able to meet up to what he had said to the Senate he was going to do in order to, as part of his strategies to strengthen the Naira. Should he re-strategize? And what are some of the things he should then be looking at? Because obviously, the last payment made was said to have been a drop in the ocean and didn't have significant impact. But this was his core area of core strategy for defending or for strengthening the Naira. What should he be looking at now?
Yeah, the CBN Governor, as a person, is a fine gentleman and a banker. And I see this person as someone that will not want to challenge the status quo and who does not want to rock the boat, because the situation where he finds himself now, unless he should challenge the status quo and come up with some very hardened policy, the Naira will continue to depreciate. It must understand that the people speculating on the Naira have declared a war against him. And one of the core things he said at the summit was that, look, we're going to give clear communication. Now, a CBN governor from time to time, not all the time, should come out and engage the public. Now, the last time he spoke and said the Naira was undervalued, the next day, the Naira depreciated, which is not supposed to be that. It was, well, by that statement, what we would have expected was for the Naira to appreciate. But when the Naira depreciated, it was the response from the speculator to dare him to say, why are you telling us that the Naira is undervalued? We will not even tell you that the Naira is not undervalued. Now, the CBN is not like a Sanusi that is going to come up with bold, the CBN governor rather, is not like the person of a Sanusi that would decide to rock the status quo. He's a fine gentleman, and what he has done, as far as is concerned, is gone back to the conventional monetary policy, believing that fundamental textbook economics is what is going to solve the economic situation. But that's not it. The situation where we are, we need to take very hard and bold reforms. And if that is not taken, remember that a lot of people in the bank are his colleagues. And that was what Oshobole was saying during his interview. That look, we really don't like a banker coming to be the CBN governor. We would like someone that is outside the industry, that knows nobody, and comes in and do the work of a CBN governor. But I think the CBN governor for now is too calm and too cool for the situation on ground.
Okay, we've tried textbook ideas.
Yeah.
We've tried ideas that are unorthodox. But all these ideas have not worked. And you are also saying here now, oh, we need some bold reforms. In your view, what are those specific bold reforms that will help to save the Naira? Because the Naira needs to be saved. Some financial experts are saying that the depreciation rate of the Naira in a matter of months will be about, is it 2,000 Naira to the dollar?
God forbid that.
There are financial experts too. That's what they are saying.
God forbid that it will be 2,000 Naira. I guess they do not understand the implication of that statement. I mean, 2,000 Naira is suicidal. We should not even dare that. But the Naira, as you see it now, is moving like a madman of Gadara. If you look at the spikes, just going up and down. It's not showing price stability. Now, what is the solution? The solution is very simple, sir. It's just a pronouncement. But you see, who wants to dare it? Who wants to dare? We all know what the solution is. We all know what the CBN is supposed to do, and the Naira will drop within 24 hours. But who wants to dare it? Who is willing to dare it? Nobody is willing to dare it. So that's where we have the problem. They're not going to dare to make that pronouncement.
Well, what is that pronouncement that they should make?
No, it's too difficult to be saying on national TV.
No,
because
we're talking about
it's too difficult to be saying. Yeah, it's too difficult to be saying on national TV. They know what the pronouncement is. They know what the pronouncement is.
Okay, so just in case they don't know.
No, they know.
Can you help tell them?
No, I'm not going to do that. They know what the pronouncement is. What they should do. Let me just give you a little bit of hints. Which developed nation would you get into and you see people trading dollar on the streets? If you want to buy your dollar, you go to Travelex, you go to authorized people within the airports. Which nation that has price stability would you see people hawking dollar on the street?
They hawk Naira too.
Sorry?
They hawk Naira too. And when you go to the banks, the banks will say they don't have money.
So
people are hawking the Naira.
So you know the pronouncement. Let's not waste our time that the solution is not there. But who is just going to make that pronouncement? Because it's going to hit hard on everybody. So to say that there's no solution, we're just deceiving ourselves. The solution is there. It's just a pronouncement, and the Naira will half itself within 24 hours. Within 24 hours. But who's going to do that? So let's leave that for them to decide at the appropriate time. I hope it doesn't get late for them to now say, look, we're in a situation of war. We now
But
have to
even if
respond.
you make that pronouncement and there is no reproductivity within the economy, what effect?
No, you're not
ultimately?
saying something else now. You're saying something else. Productivity, yes. You see, Nigeria must humble themselves to understand that Nigeria is not a wealthy nation. Nigeria is a poor nation. And how do you know that? Nigerians have been so arrogant to say they are wealthy. There's a difference between being rich and being wealthy. Nigeria produces 1.2 million barrels a day for a population of 220 million people. Saudi Arabia does 9 million barrels a day for a population of 32 million people. Now, Nigeria, 220 million people, is struggling to generate 5,000 megawatts of electricity, when that is just something that a company uses in a developed nation. We are still struggling to have, in the midst of 220 million people. Then again, you find out that the same country, the GDP of Africa is 3.1 trillion. When you add up the market value of Apple and Microsoft, 2.8, 2.7, you find 5.6 trillion. That means the entire thing that Africa is doing is not even up to half of Microsoft and Apple. Now, why am I saying this? If we do not humble ourselves to know that we are poor, we do not have money, we won't begin to think about productivity. But what we think we do, you see, what happens to us is suffering and smiling. And then the next stage is that people faking it to think that they are rich. So when you now talk about productivity, people have to come to that stage that, look, we're nothing. We're not doing anything. We now need to begin to produce. So that's another dimension on its own. But when you're talking, if we do not get the FX right, as of today, the news is reporting that the number of car importation into the country has dropped from 194,000, which is even very small for a population of 220 million people. 194 is dropped to 133,000 because of FX. So if we do not solve that issue of FX, and then some people are even saying that, okay, if the Dangote refinery and the Port Harcourt refinery should start, look at what has happened to the Port Harcourt refinery. The Port Harcourt refinery, mechanical completion, and then to not produce the petrol, you now say you want to sell. you not say you want to, I mean,
bring in managers, going to partnership with a PPP.
Yeah, before you can say you want to even go to PPP, begin to produce. Begin to move petrol, diesel, all these things before you even say you want to sell. So now that they have said they want to sell, nobody is now interrogating them that what is happening to Port Harcourt refinery. The same thing with Dangote refinery. Today we will hear that 1 million barrels of, for me, I think that Dangote refinery is a matter of time, because I do not see how someone can invest $20 billion into a refinery and at the end of the day is not going to produce. I think it's a matter of time. But is it going to affect the FX? I don't think so. It's not going to affect the FX. It's not going to have any value on the FX at all. It will make no significant difference to our FX.
Mr. Cardoso seems to think so, because he did mention, the anticipated moderation in pump prices or PMS following this refinery. We did talk about that as to what extent would it impact, but he seemed to be quite optimistic about that. But I'd like you to talk about just, beyond, you've, as Dr. Abati mentioned, beyond this thing that you said, which is shrouded in secrecy, this announcement that you say they only need to make, there are other issues around productivity. And I wish you would say it. The reason I'm saying that is because just at the beginning of the show, we had looked at textbook solutions, we had looked at some reforms that we make, and everything so far seems to have failed. Now, if you have the answer, obviously it doesn't seem to be quite obvious to the other people, because if this administration is quite keen and particular about strengthening the Naira, surely they must go with your suggestion, or perhaps are there certain things that would prevent this announcement from being made, like you've said?
Dr. Abata has been in government and he understands the way government works. He understands. As he sits down there, he knows some things that he can't say on national TV.
So would you hurt some people's businesses? Are there interested parties who are preventing?
The Nigerian problem are just pedestrian problem of people are hungry. People want electricity. All these things have been solved like 2,000 years ago. Yeah. Nobody is asking you to invent it. They're just telling you to duplicate it. The Nigerian problem does not need you thinking outside the box. It just needs you to think within the box. What people will eat, what they will wear, where they will sleep, shelter, accommodation. All these things have nothing to do with going to the moon. And in fact, going to the moon is not even novel because people have gone there before. But what we're saying here is that it is just the will. Remember when the president said, let us remove police from highly influential VIPs. Has that happened? Because if that has been done, it will radically reduce our insecurity. But did that happen up to now? So you see, there are some things that you just don't waste your time with. The government and Mr. Cardoso knows the pronouncement that he needs to make, and what he needs to back it up. But the problem is the will there. So we're just going to go with the textbook and the unorthodox and all the things that we need to do. And at the end of the day, the economy continues to struggle. And the impact of this is that people that send their children abroad are withdrawing them from school because the FX has drastically changed their lifestyle. People that could fly on business class are now flying on the economy for the same price.
Even economy is very expensive.
Even economy is like 2.2 million today.
Flying is luxury.
Yeah, exactly. So it's changing our lifestyle, and we are pressed for time. This government in the next 4 months will be 1 year in office. Okay.
You made a comment earlier on about the CBN governor.
Yeah.
You said, oh, he's a pro-establishment person, a gentleman who is not likely to rock the boat, who will not make the kind of pronouncement that you expect him to make. Are you saying that it's not the right kind of CBN governor that we need at this time?
No.
Is that what you're saying?
I've not said that. I've not said that. We must give him time. We must give him time. He just came to the saddle. We must give him time, and this time is too short to assess him. I'm just looking at his personality. I'm looking at his ideology, and I'm looking at his history. And when you put it side and side with Sanusi Lamido, you remember when Sanusi first came in, he had a very big hit on the banks. Arrested the MDs, and changed a lot of things. So these guys are different. So we must first leave him to show what he understands. And then after 1 year, we can now appraise him. But for now, it's too early to say he's not the right man for the job.
Okay, anyway, the other thing to point out is that both Sanusi Lamido as CBN governor was also a banker. Yeah. He had a banking background, just like Yemi Cardoso, who is there now. Thank you very much, Mr. Lai Omotola, for joining us on The Morning Show.